By listening to this podcast, you agree not to use this podcast as medical advice to treat any medical condition in either yourself or others. It is not a substitute for professional medical advice or consultations with your healthcare professionals. We are here to share stories and give hope. Please consult your physician for any medication questions or medical issues you may be having. Our bodies are uniquely ours, and something that may work for one person may not necessarily work for you. Welcome to the Menieres podcast. It's been so great being back and hearing from so many of you. I am very interested in what you'd like to hear more about, and the only way that I will know is if you send me a message. So tell me, email me, reach out to me on social media, or send me a voice message at www.speakpipe.com. All the ways to connect with me are down below in the show notes. I have a special treat for you today. She is a gentle soul that is a nature enthusiast, and I came across her page years ago when my daughter was into mermaids. Scrolling Instagram, I came across this stunning human dressed like a mermaid, swimming in various springs around Florida. I later learned she had Menieres, and her content continued showing up in my feed. Her love for trees, birds, and everything in nature drew me closer, knowing she has this debilitating disease that could keep her down, and she isn't allowing it to keep her confined. You are going to love her. Please welcome one of Vita's newest Vita ambassadors, Callie. Callie, I am so happy we're finally connecting. I was going back through my personal Instagram page and trying to figure out when it was that we first connected. And it was through one of your mermaid posts. I don't know if you know that, because my daughter was fascinated with you and everything that you do. Not necessarily, we didn't know about the water conservation aspect of it, but she was just enamored with your tails, your mermaid tails.
Aww.
And I told her I was meeting with you today, and I said, is there anything you want me to ask her? And she says, yes, I want to know where I can get a tail.
Well, she can send me a message. I will let her know all the places.
Okay, it's so cute.
I even have, oh my gosh, like if we ever were to run into each other in real life, she could just borrow mine. I have a couple of extras that like don't fit me. So.
Aww, that's so fun. How many do you have?
Total of 4 skins and 2 monofins.
Oh my gosh, that's so much fun. People are probably going, what are you talking about?
Yeah, the monofin goes in the fluke, which is, you know, the bottom of the tail, and the custom one that I have, which is the one I post the most of, it's actually really hard to swim in because it's a monofin wedged in between 2 pieces of really large vinyl, and it cuts my feet to pieces, and
oh my gosh,
there's no room for me to wear like a water sock to prevent that. So it's like a labor of love whenever I go out in that one.
Yeah, when the videos, is it your husband that captures those?
Yeah.
He's awesome. The essence of your videos are just phenomenal. Aww. Well, we're not here to talk about mermaids, but I want to know a little bit more about you and your vestibular journey. Can you take us on that ride?
Yeah. So gosh, you know, I'm a native Floridian. I've always loved the outdoors. I've always been really active. So that's like kind of a big thing with me. I've always been like this really busy person. Love music. I'm always posting, like I'm always singing. So my family was like a really musical family that I grew up with, but they were more on the instrument side, singing and stuff. So I think I got that from them. Not that I'm a good singer, but I love music, and music has been like a huge part of my life. And so the vestibular stuff has kind of interrupted that a little bit. We can maybe go more into that as we talk, but so yeah, as far as my journey goes, you know, I was like 25, I think, whenever I first started noticing. I was actually at the gym, and I was noticing like this weird sensation in my ear, like kind of like a slight fullness, not like the fullness I would come to know and loathe, but it was like just a little bit of fullness, and then like tinnitus, no hearing loss or anything. And I was honestly scared that I had done something with listening to the volume too loud in my earbuds. And so I kind of was thinking it was that, and I didn't have health insurance at the time, so I wasn't like going to go to the doctor for it. But I remember telling my husband, like, "Oh my gosh, like my ear sounds really weird. Like this is not and normal for me." And he calmed me down. He was like, "Oh, that kind of stuff happens all the time to people. Like you might have just listened to your music too loud. It'll probably go away." And it did go away.
Mhm.
So I just was really happy to accept that as like, this is going no further. It was just a fluke. I'll be careful with my headphones. But it kept coming back, and it kept staying longer and longer each time. And then eventually, the hearing loss started to come, and then the dizziness. Like when it first happened, it wasn't vertigo. I was just at my mother-in-law's house, and she was cooking like Christmas dinner, and I was helping, and I was like, I just need to lay down for a moment.
Mhm.
Um, I think I was like maybe 26, 27 at this time. And so I just laid down and I just remembered my head felt like it just kept going back into the couch. And I was like, this is weird.
Mhm.
But again, like it went away. And so I was just happy to say, like, maybe, I'm getting older and like these are things that I'm just going to get to enjoy more of the older I get. So I literally, I just didn't want to face anything that was potentially like bad. So I
Right.
was happy to avoid. Um, but the years went on, and this whole time I was probably like what I would have considered like peak shape healthiness. As far as my workouts, I was really lean. I was eating healthy, or so I thought at the time. That's always like, hindsight, you always learn like, oh, I thought I was doing things right, but it wasn't necessarily right for me, which I would come to find out later.
Mhm.
I was great health, biking all the time, running, lifting weights. Like I commuted to work on a bicycle and or walked. But it just started getting worse and worse. And then I think it was 2015 when things got so bad that it was like interrupting my life. So I kept thinking it was just food poisoning. Like I would be at my desk and I would start to get these like what do they call it? Like auras, like migrainous, which I didn't know that's what it was at the time. But I would start getting these visual issues, and then I would start to get really sick to my stomach, and then I would
Mm.
be nauseous, and then everything would spin, and so that's why I was like, oh, what did I eat? Like this is, gosh, what did I have? It's food poisoning. So that happened like 3 or 4 times, and then the last time that it happened, I was trying to walk to my car from work, which is a 10-minute walk where I have to park. And I had to lay down in the grass in front of all the students um, and take a moment because everything started spinning and I couldn't walk anymore. And luckily, it's normal for students to lay in the grass. Like nobody came to me thinking I was like in distress and I wasn't waving my arms or anything. I was embarrassed. I was like, what's happening to me? And
Mhm.
I don't like needing help or anything like that. So I laid in the grass for like 20 minutes while it was happening. It wasn't going away. So I finally called my husband to come get me, which he did. And again, I was like, I think I have food poisoning. Like, I don't know what I ate. So he brought me home and he literally had to like hoist me because I couldn't even like hold my weight up on my own. Um,
Mhm.
and I went home, went to bed. It finally went away after like 4 hours, I think was the total duration. Um, and as soon as I didn't feel nauseous, I went right to the gym and I tried to work it off. And I told myself like, I'm gonna like stop eating. I'm gonna cook my own food. Like I'm not getting food poisoning anymore. But as I started to open up about what was happening to me and having conversations with people, there was mentioned that she knew someone who had very similar things, and it sounded exactly like Meniere's disease to her. And I did not want to hear that at all. But I did finally go to the doctor because my work was becoming interrupted. And the doctor I went to was just a primary care physician, small town type feel. And he was just like, you have bad allergies. I wouldn't worry too much about it. You just got a bad case of allergies. Go through this allergy program and build immunity to your seasonal allergies, and that'll really like change your life. So I did like a year of that. Didn't change my life. Things were getting worse. Actually, they got worse with the shots because I think, there's some evidence that allergies can affect Meniere's a little bit. And when you're like injecting the things that you're allergic to, yes, you might be building immunity to it, but you're still also putting it in your body. So for me, it like kind of made things go haywire. And let me know if I'm going too long on this
Oh,
question.
you're great.
Um, so life was still doable. I mean, I was having these vertigo flares like only twice a year, twice maybe
Mm,
once a year. 4 hours, so predictable. I got to where I could tell like when it was going to happen. I would see the visual disturbances, nausea, and then I just kind of know, okay, I'm going to lay down. I would let it pass. I was good to go. Back in the gym, back to work, like just, but again, as time went on, the allergy thing didn't work. I decided to see a specialist because it was getting really bad. Like I couldn't even hide it anymore in meetings.
mm,
The fact that I couldn't like make eye contact with people or really follow what they were saying because the way that all the different noises in the rooms, these meeting rooms, it was just reverberating and it was
mhm.
sending overload and it was too much and I didn't know what's happening. So I saw a specialist and he did all these different things. He did an epilep maneuver, which I wasn't dizzy at the time, but I don't know if he was, I don't know what that was. But I did like the hearing tests and I did the puffs of air in the ear
The
and
caloric testing. Yeah, that's fun.
yeah, he was just so like he's like there's four things I think it could be and he listed them all off and then Menieres was one of them, which I was dreading. And then
Mhm.
he's like, what do you think it is? And I was just like up because I was like, I don't want it to be any of them. They all sound horrible. But he's like, well, I think it's Menieres. Have a few more rounds of testing and stuff. And yeah, since then I saw a few more doctors. They all said the same thing, except for my current doctor, the one after all of that, because I went through quite a few doctors just trying to find the right personality match for me,
Mhm.
right
Sure.
structure of care that I wanted. And I actually settled on a surgeon who's amazing here in town. And he's the one who's like, because my recent chronic stuff that became so debilitating to where I thought I was gonna have to quit my job that was like a couple years ago. He was like, it doesn't sound like Meniere's to him. It sounded like it could be some kind of migraine variant. Um, and to him, the research was showing they have so many overlapping symptoms. People can have one or both or the other. They kind of go hand in hand.
Right.
So
Do you do you have a history of migraine?
um, not that I was aware of at the time because I
Mhm.
remember thinking like I don't get headaches because that's what you assume when
Right.
you hear migraine is that it's just like these really bad headaches. And I
Mhm.
had a specific instance that I remembered on my 15th birthday. I was so excited. My friends were coming over. I'd never had a headache in my life. And then I got this jarring out of nowhere headache that I've never experienced. Like I thought I was dying.
Yeah.
But I was trying to be a trooper because my friends were coming over. And I remember my mom sitting on the bed with me and saying like the exact same thing happened to her on her exact 15th birthday. And she was like, it'll go away. Don't worry. So that was like a headache I remembered. And then the second question that he had asked me, the doctor had asked me if I had ever had headache. He asked me if I had been motion sick as a
Mhm.
kid. And I was like, yes, I used to get car sick all the time. I could ride roller coasters and stuff, but like the
Mhm.
car, oh my gosh, I was always like the one who was sick. I kind of grew out of it though, and I don't really have any issues with it now. But through my research, I've learned, because he recommended the Heal Your Headache diet, just in case. He was like, can't really hurt you to try it. So I did. And reading the literature on that, like you learn just migraine is so much more than headache.
Right.
You know,
Right.
it blows my mind. So
It is crazy because I've always suffered from migraine from preteen up until well now, but to have that variant of a vestibular migraine where I don't have the pain, but I know the difference, it's so difficult to explain to people. You
yeah.
have a migraine but no pain, but I'm having some vestibular symptoms. It's just
Mhm.
yeah, it's crazy. So you did the heal your headache diet. Did you do the elimination diet completely like it says?
I did the extreme. I did it longer than it's recommended you do because I was too afraid to introduce foods back. And I have been finally introducing foods back and trying to just get back to where I find like I'm able to go out and enjoy myself a little
Mhm.
bit, like live on the edge just a little bit. Um, but I did do it, and it was really hard at first because I had no energy. I was mentally exhausted. I was
Yeah.
fatigued. I didn't know how I was going to get to the store. I didn't know. I was so sick that I also wasn't hungry, but I knew I needed to eat. But it seemed
Right.
like that first few weeks, everything I put in my mouth came right back up because I would just get dizzy instantly. And so it took a while. My husband helped a lot with everything. And if it wasn't for finding the dizzy cook as well, like I don't think I would have found recipes that were actually tasty. So
Right.
yeah.
Let me ask you something real quick while I'm thinking about it. Initially, you were having 1 to 2 episodes a year.
Mhm.
When this started to get worsen, how often were you having the episodes, and at what point were you like, "I've gotta see a doctor about this"?
Yeah. So it wasn't as much the episodes of vertigo. They were increasing, I would say like twofold.
Mhm.
Where it wasn't like 2 to 3 a year, it was more like 6 a year.
Yeah,
But still you can kind of manage if that's all it is the vertigo.
right.
But the sensory overload and the hearing distortion and just the general like fatigue and brain fog,
Mhm.
that was getting unmanageable. And I found myself doing all the wrong things that I know now are wrong. But I mean, I was reaching for coffee after coffee after coffee to
Mhm.
try to get rid of this fatigue, and nothing could seem to like nip it at all.
Right.
So it was really those things in addition to the vertigo increasing. But at its worst, it was multiple times a day, every day, and I had the drop attacks. So I had fallen at work, which was really embarrassing for me. I'm not embarrassed now,
Right.
but at the time I was pretty embarrassed. And then on my husband and I's like anniversary trip, um, it was in the midst of all this. I knew I shouldn't have gone. We went to Cumberland Island, but I just
Mhm.
wanted to go, and I'm like, I refuse not to live my life. And I was sick the whole time, and I had to
Yeah.
live, like we had like a picnic blanket, and we did walk around as much as I could, but I did have to lay down for like a good hour or two. Um, and I had a drop attack that time. So those are the only two that I've had. Those were like 2
Mm.
years ago. But once you have them, they never leave the back of your mind as a possibility.
Yes. Yeah, I've been fortunate not to have them, but I'm glad you didn't have a major injury, because 'cause I've had friends that, whew, some of those injuries are pretty significant.
Yeah.
Wow.
I go down the
Wow.
stairs very carefully. Like even when I'm feeling completely well, like the
Mhm.
stairs are no joke to me. I study them and I take my time and I hold the handrail.
Yes, I noticed that I have slowed down significantly walking, because I used to be a fast walker. Walking and anything out of the ordinary where I'm not used to the area, absolutely, it's crazy. Well,
Yeah.
if you like you said you went on vacation, looking back, knowing what you know now, would you have still gone on that vacation knowing
Oh,
that you were
yes, yes,
okay,
yes, yes.
yeah,
So that's the essence of me is like I am not gonna miss out. This might try to hinder my life, but I'm not gonna let it. Um,
mhm,
as much as I can. Like if I'm really, really, really bad, like that one trip that I just mentioned, it was just my husband and I, and he knows what we're up against. So I didn't feel like I was burdening him. And I have gone on a group vacation during the same time period when things were starting to turn up, where
mhm,
I kind of give everybody the lowdown of what to expect, what might happen. And, the most of it was that if I start feeling bad, I'm going to lay in the tent all day. You guys go have fun. Do not feel bad for me. I'm
right,
just happy to be out of Florida. I'm just happy to be here. It's like part of my healing. And so I think just like the communication with people as well is really important, and um, to not miss out on the things that you want to enjoy, because I think that's just as healing as other medicines.
absolutely. I know a lot of people reach out to me with the fear of even going on vacation, and it hurts me to think that there are so many people that aren't living and taking that step into that towards that fear, because it at that point, it's controlling you, and I'm the same way. I'm gonna do it. If I don't feel good when I'm doing it, okay, I will adjust and take my time and do what I need to do, but man, I'm gonna give it a shot.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
absolutely.
Um,
We learn to like prepare for these moments, right?
yeah.
So
Yep.
like I have like a blanket that actually folds into like a little purse just in case I need to lay down outside. And that's
Mhm.
not a bad case scenario, right? Because if you're laying down, you find a beautiful tree, you get to look for birds or at least listen for the birds
Yeah,
while you're trying to settle everything. So there's ways to still enjoy even like the bad times.
absolutely. What would you say is your biggest challenge today, Callie?
I think staying positive. I've kind of gotten that down, but that was a recent one to kind of get over. Like it's easy to look at all the inspirational posts on Instagram, and it's one thing to post them, and another thing to
Yeah.
actually live it.
Right.
So I think always just trying to keep my perspective in check, and make sure that I am not floating into a negative space. But then also just when the vertigo does flare up, like that's the main challenge because I'm one of those people I want to work really badly. I love my job and I love the
Yeah.
people I work with, and I want to keep volunteering and the things that I do. So I think there's always this anxiety in the back of my mind, and I do try to keep it in check that the level of chronic that I had felt a couple years ago when I thought I was going to have to quit would return, and then I'll actually have to quit my job. And so just trying to keep that anxiety in check is really like one of the biggest hurdles to overcome mentally.
Yeah. Did you have to take a leave of absence at any time from work?
I did take a few days off. For
Okay.
the most part, when this happened, it was during the summer. I was really lucky. I work in higher
Mhm.
education, and so all the students were out, and all the faculty were gone. So I was able to somehow make it into my office, sit myself at my computer, and just do what I could.
Mhm.
So it took me an extra 10 minutes to read an email because it was kind of spinning around the screen, and it took me a little bit longer to type it out. It
Yeah.
didn't matter because I was still doing it, and people were still getting their answers. And so I just did what I could. I tried not to put too much pressure on myself other than to make sure that, I wasn't letting anything slip up. But, I have a very understanding supervisor. He was ready to make any accommodation I needed. And certainly if I needed to take a leave of absence, I had that ability.
Mhm.
But even though I probably should have, I'm like, I want to save this until I like really need it. And so I hadn't given up hope at that point that I was going to come out of it.
Yeah. Yeah. So today do you have symptoms daily or are you pretty good,
I'm pretty good.
symptom-wise? Yeah.
I always have the tinnitus.
Mhm.
The ear fullness kind of comes and goes, but it's not as bad as it used to be. My hearing is still reduced, but I can hear out of my ear, which at one point it was pretty bad. I almost couldn't hear out of it at all.
Mhm.
So that's been wonderful. And just here and there, I'll kind of get these like visual issues where it's kind of hard to focus my eyes, and then I think,
Mhm.
oh no, is it coming? Is the vertigo around the corner? And
Yeah.
sometimes it is, but when it happens now, it's like for 10 or 20 seconds.
Mhm.
I've gotten to where I can even handle it standing up. I just kind of hold on to something and just let it pass, and I can still have a conversation. So that's a really huge achievement for me, and I'm hoping that it stays that way. Because I don't know if you've heard this before, but I have heard from several of the doctors I've been to that like after so many years, it's supposed to kind of burn itself out in the sense, not that it goes away, but
Mhm.
you get better at handling it and it's less intense. So I'm
Yeah.
fingers crossed that that's true for me because I am in that time frame.
Right, right. I know. I think we're about the same because mine started in 2016.
Okay.
And, gosh, I hope that's true.
I
But I think you're onto something, though. I think we learn to handle it and, accommodate it and we just get used to it. I know the game well of freezing and when you have that swaying sensation and then just moving on, and your husband probably is aware of it, but your friends probably don't even notice.
yeah.
But, yeah, I do the same thing, and it's just kinda like freeze frame for a moment, and then we carry on.
I
Yeah.
feel like my friends do know because I vocalize it so
Do
hard.
you?
I get all dramatic, I'm like, woo, everything just spun for a second. So, and then I kind of like laugh about it. But yeah, they usually know I vocalize it all.
Yeah, do you? Good. Do you, partake in alcohol at all?
I do.
You
I
do.
probably shouldn't. I'm like such a jolly drinker. Makes me like the happiest person. So I never drank until I was just about 21. Just because of family history, I was afraid of alcoholism. And then as I got older and moved out to college, I realized people can drink and have fun and still be responsible. So I
Mhm.
started to partake, and I realized that I didn't have any kind of addictive tendencies with it. So I was such a fan of like anytime we traveled anywhere, going to local breweries. I love the taste of beer so much. Beers from all around the world, beers
Yeah.
from local places. So that was like kind of an identity thing that I
Mhm.
felt like I was going to lose when I realized I needed to give up the alcohol just
Mhm.
to kind of keep my symptoms reduced and at bay. Um, I kind of quit drinking for a while, and then I have brought back, like with the wine ones, I'll have a glass of wine here and there. But I just don't really, I don't know if my palate changed since I did the elimination diet. I've been eating healthier, but I actually don't really enjoy wine anymore. Like I used to like it, and now I just don't love it. Like I'll have one or two glasses and I'm done. It tastes bad after that to me.
Yeah.
And then I drink the clear distilled stuff that
Me too. White claws and all
yeah,
that.
White Claws or mine lately is the High Noons. I love the
Yes.
watermelon one, or vodka soda. But
Mhm.
you know, those hit harder than I was used to with beer. So I've kind of reduced my drinking to like just special occasions because it's just not the same feeling as the beer I once loved and knew.
Does beer, give you an increase in your symptoms?
I have not been willing to risk trying. I think that like the wheat part of it is probably I had like a blood test before I did the elimination diet and before I
Mhm.
knew about the Heal Your Headache diet.
Mhm.
I did one of those online blood tests from I think like Everlywell or something. And so one of the things it came back with that it wasn't gluten, it was wheat that I was pretty highly sensitive to.
Hmm.
So I've just kind of eliminated that from my life completely. Like I don't
Yeah.
even, not even on a cheat day when I'm like out on vacation will I risk wheat,
Mhm.
even though it's probably fine. But I would rather go for like chocolate or something more indulgent. So
No problems with chocolate as a trigger?
not lately. I mean, I also eliminated that completely for over a year.
Yeah.
Didn't touch it. And now I have like certain ones, like I make sure they don't have any soy in them. They don't have a bunch of nasties. So I find myself, unfortunately, paying like $7 to $10 for like the alternative health food version of M&Ms. Um, like, but it's cleaner, you know. Um,
Right.
so I have been partaking in chocolate again because I just don't want to give it up, and it hasn't seemed to trigger anything. But I also
Good.
don't shovel it in like I used to because
Right.
oh my gosh, I used to shovel it in. Chocolate was not safe around me. Chocolate and coffee were like my two vices, and potato
Yeah.
chips.
Yeah. Are you able to drink coffee today?
I occasionally have a Swiss water processed decaf if I can
Mhm.
find it while I'm out, but I don't really enjoy it anymore. I kind of
Yeah.
tend to go more for like the herbal teas because
Mhm.
I've grown more accustomed to those.
Right.
So I don't really miss it. I will get one because I'll think, oh, I missed this, and then
Right.
I'm
Like,
like so disappointed when I taste it.
why did I do this? Yeah, I get that. Is there any advice you would want to go back and give yourself at the beginning of your journey?
Not to be so dramatic. Because before I even was diagnosed, and the friend had told me that, you know, oh, you should get this looked at. It could be this. And I had Googled the symptom. I had Googled it and I found horror stories, trigger warning. I was like, if this is what I have, like, I'm just going to end it because, like, I'm not becoming a burden to anybody. I'm not becoming someone who's just going to lay in bed all day. That's not going to be my life because you know in my head I was imagining the worst case scenarios and imagining that that was going to be the end all be all forever. And then the diagnosis came and I had to kind of like relive what I said I would do if that was the case. And then I was like, I don't want to end it. You
Right?
know? um, so yeah, I think I would have told myself, you know, like don't jump to that right away, that thought, because you
Right.
don't really know what you're up against yet. Like be calm, So yeah, if I could go back and tell myself anything, it would be to not be dramatic. You don't even know what you're up against yet. Do a little more research, not into the scary things, but into the positive things, because there is a lot of that out there. Um, and I think that would have like saved a lot of tears and a lot of up at night anxiety, and
Yeah.
even would have changed the conversations I had around it, not only with myself but people around me. I wouldn't have been so negative.
Hmm. Did you go to social media at all to try to find out more about it?
Not at first. My sis had actually recommended that to me. And I was just like, I'm still not processed. I mean, this was like 3 or 4 years in when I'd been diagnosed, and I still wasn't ready to like
Yeah.
accept that was a label attached to me. Um, so, she was like, you should do that. Like, it helps a lot of people. You don't want to feel isolated, because I can talk to other people about it, but if they're not
Mhm.
going through it, they don't actually know. They can be supportive, but they can't
Right.
identify with it. Um,
Hmm.
and so I think it was like another 6 months after that, and I finally was like, I'm going to check out Reddit. I'm going to check out like these other support groups. I don't have Facebook, so that wasn't one that I've ever gone to.
Right.
But it was exactly what I was afraid of. It was worst case scenarios, horror stories, and my gosh, you feel so bad when you're reading it for what the people posting are going through, because
Right.
you know that it is that bad. But it just, I knew right away it wasn't going to be helpful for me, and
Yeah.
not to participate in it at all. So I noped out just as soon as I got into it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard. I'm part of a lot of groups, but I only go in once in a while when I have a question, and I go right to the search button because it's so easy to get sucked into that darkness. Because
Yeah.
we've been there, and yeah, and it's hard too. I don't know if you experience this, but sometimes because I'm doing so well, I actually have some guilt when I'm in there. That for one, I don't know that people will believe that I was ever that sick, and that it was my mind shift. Because when you say it, sometimes it's like, yeah, right, whatever. Everyone's mind shift, mind shift, mind shift. Um, but I know in my heart that that's what saved me,
Yeah.
is switching those gears in my head, and figuring it out. Do you feel that for you? I mean, it sounds like you stayed that way the whole time, with a little bit of darkness, but you came out of it.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely feel everything that you said. Um, I think, you know, it's so easy to read other people's stories and just assume that's going to be your exact same story, that
Mhm.
those exact same things are going to happen to you. And it's not true. We're all different.
Yeah.
We don't even know. I mean, the way this manifests in each individual person is so different. The timelines are crazy. The triggers are different. Like, not one, that's the biggest thing, is like looking at those things. It's good to build community in my mind. But if you can't separate the community building from like it giving yourself more anxiety, then you can't be a part of it. And so that's just kind of how I handled it. And I do feel guilt whenever I feel better.
Yeah.
Because you just wish, like, some of the people you're talking to, that you could give them all the good stuff.
I know.
They
Yeah.
weren't going through it still. And then the other thing I deal with is actually outside of the support groups. I wouldn't say it's guilt, but it's like just misunderstanding when people who've never had a vestibular issue, see you going through a really hard time and how sick that you can be. But when you feel better, it's like they think, oh, you're doing better. Like, you're going to be doing better forever and
Yeah,
everything's
you're cured.
good. Yeah. Good for you. I've had so many people say like, oh, I'm so glad you're doing better.
Mhm.
Cool. So, and then even to kind of tell them like the different levels of better, like, just because
Mhm.
I'm out here at this restaurant with you, it doesn't mean that I necessarily feel 100% okay right now.
Mhm.
I'm really working through it because I want to be here in your presence.
Yeah.
So I think that has been hard too. It kind of brings on a different set of emotions.
Yeah, it is. It's very hard. You're lucky to have a support system. Your husband sounds fantastic. Has this whole thing changed your relationship with him at all?
Um, I would say so. I mean, he's always been supportive. Um, but like, you get those times where you're actually tested with the whole in sickness and in health thing.
Yeah.
And he he just never even flinched. It was always, what do we need to do?
Mhm.
And I appreciate that so much. It's such a
Mhm.
gift to be with somebody is not who isn't intimidated by what this could mean for the rest of our lives. Is it going to burden me? Like, it just never even became a thing in his awareness, or he never made me feel that that was an issue or something that I needed to be worried about. I was the one who would be, in the midst of spinning, crying, going, I'm so sorry. I don't want you to have to deal with this forever.
Right.
And he is just like, it's not going to be forever. And if it is, then we'll handle it as it goes.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Mhm.
That is awesome. What's the hardest part of having a vestibular disorder for you in your life in general?
I think it's all the things that I thought that I was going to do that have been taking a little bit longer to do. Um, but at the same time, it's pushed me to do those things. So like I always wanted to do a triathlon, always, because I love hiking and swimming. But I never done it, never signed up for one, never trained for one. And so, I get this issue and now it's like, well, how am I going to train with this?
Mhm.
You would think it would be something that would keep me from even wanting to do it. But I've done two, and I'm probably going to sign up for a third soon because I've been starting to feel better. But I'm doing the sprint ones, so like that's how I've adapted to this. Is like I'm going to do the shorter version, and I'm only going to do one a year, and I'm not going to try to go for first place in my age group or anything. I'm just going to be so happy that I did it.
That's
Um,
awesome.
but like in my head before I had a vestibular condition, I was going to do them and I was going to be competitive and I was going to win. And I was going to do all these other travel type things. So I think, having something now that I always have to, it's almost like another person you have to take care of separate from yourself. Um, I think of myself without it and the things I
Mhm.
want to do. And then I think of myself that does have it and how am I going to carry that person along with it that also wants to do the things. So it's kind of a weird way to think of it, but
No, I love that. That's great because it is true.
yeah.
There are like two of us, and one has to pull the other along when
Mhm.
we start getting in that a negative headspace and or when we need that encouragement.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
So I think you kind of grieve the life that you thought you were going to have. Um, but that just makes room for a new life.
It does. It does. I grieve the life I thought I was going to live, and because there's things that I want to do that I know I'll never be able to do. Like I wanted to become certified scuba. I will never be able to do that. I don't. Are we going to talk?
Well, I have a story about that, and
Yeah. Okay.
I don't want to interrupt you.
Oh, you're fine.
We can touch back when you're done with your list.
Yeah, no, I'm things like that, but then there's other things that if it wasn't for this illness, these symptoms, I would not have pushed forward and found myself. I
Mhm.
found my voice with this. I'm no longer a people pleaser. Okay, I still am, but not the pushover I used to be. And I just feel that there's so much more strength, and I have boundaries now that I didn't have before. And there's so much. It's taken a lot away, but it has given me so much more. And some people don't get that, but once you get it, you get it,
Yeah,
you know?
it's very freeing once you
It
do.
is. For sure. So you'll have to tell me about the scuba diving.
Okay, so I have a very wonderful, sweet, close friend who her father has Meniere's disease, and he is a scuba diver. And
Yeah.
I don't know that he still does it as intensely, but he was doing it quite often in the midst of the worst symptoms ever. And
Yeah.
I was so inspired whenever I would talk to her about it because she would tell me how he had these stories about, well, it is possible to throw up through a regulator. like, and still keep breathing. So he would go out and he just with his dive buddies, he was really close with them, and so I guess they had their signals that
Mhm.
they would communicate underneath the water if he was in distress or anything, and they would just pull him back up at the safe pace. And so he still got to do it. Not every trip was a successful trip, but it was.
Mhm.
He went, and
Yeah.
so that was something that was like right at the start of my journey, super inspiring to me. That
Absolutely.
they're not giving up. And I'm scuba certified.
Are
Uh,
you?
I got certified before, and I haven't gone lately, only because it's kind of an expensive hobby and I don't have
Yeah.
the equipment and stuff. But it is possible. So
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
that's great to hear because I really thought that was just off the table. Yeah, with all the symptoms, and so well, that's good to hear.
Yeah, if you
I'm
ever get
glad
sick,
we're doing
I'll be your dive buddy. But we'll
okay.
have to have a second, or we'll have to have a third and a fourth dive buddy to watch both of us. So.
Okay. That's right. And I'm sure that there are people out there with Menieres that are doing it, but
Oh
you
yeah.
know, yeah, so that's so cool. And I hear that you are thinking about becoming a Vita ambassador.
Yes, so I
Yeah.
actually did all of the initial like signing up. I met with the coordinator and talked about different roles I was interested in, and I got my welcome packet in the mail.
Yay!
So I'm really excited, and it's just like another way to kind of give back. Like this
Mhm.
is the opposite of the horror stories and the support groups that I was afraid
Yeah.
of, and it's like all the good stuff, like the resources, the person to talk to if you need help with
Mhm.
correct information. I'm so excited. So I haven't started officially yet, but
That's
I'm
all
hoping
right.
to soon.
It's a great group of people, of humans. They're just awesome, and it's so nice to be a part of something that is giving back, and we're kind of being those people that we needed back then. That's the way I look at it. What did I need when all this started? And let's step into that role. Yeah.
So
Yay! Well, I can't wait to see what you do.
thank you.
So, is there any way that we can support you in the community, Callie?
Um, I have basically just Instagram because I try to block out all of the social media noise and just have like one thing that I pay attention to. Um,
Right.
but I am friendly_fig on Instagram if anybody just wants to talk or reach out. But that's pretty much it. I don't really do too much. I do a lot of outdoorsy stuff. So, if anybody wanted to connect and go on a hike or something, if they're close by, I'm totally open for that. Um, but yeah, support wise, I don't know. I don't know what I need. I think I'm never good, but I am, but I'm not. So,
Oh, cool. Well, you'll find a lot of people reaching out to you, and I will drop your link to Instagram below. Well, is there anything you want to talk about before we go on to whirlwind questions?
I think another hard thing I had to deal with. So during that time that I thought I was going to have to quit my job, I did have to let some things go. I had to lighten my load. At that point, I think I had 5 email inboxes I was keeping track of.
Oh my goodness.
I was temporarily on the board of a small water conservation organization. And then I also was a coordinator in another water conservation organization for one of their volunteer programs, um, which I loved. And I still am just a regular volunteer with that one to this day. That's the Florida Springs Institute. But at one point, I was a coordinator, and I had to let that go. And that was like the hardest email I ever had to send. It was such a relief to let it go, but it was
Mhm.
also like, I was relieved, but I was crying at the same time.
Right.
But, a year went by, I got better, and I'm back out there, not in the same capacity, but I'm still out there. Um, so that was kind of the only other note I could think to add to that conversation.
Okay. That's awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to watching more of your triathlons and all that fun stuff. It's really motivating, inspirational, just
Thank
so you
you.
know. All right. Are you ready for whirlwind questions?
Ready for whirlwind question.
Okay. All right. Fill in the blank. Vestibular disorders are.
Fun with sarcasm. They are confusing.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. You feel your symptoms coming on, Callie, and you're trying to be brave. What's the first thing that you do?
I figure an escape plan for wherever I'm at. If I need to escape, I figure out how I can get to where I need to be as soon as possible. At work, I luckily have a door that I can shut, and I'm not in one of those fishbowl offices where people can
Mhm.
see everything. So again, I have an accommodating supervisor. I have purchased, rather than just a regular chair, it's like a futon chair. So I can
Mhm.
pull that thing out in less than like 2 minutes. If I need to lay down, shut my door, and that's my escape plan at work.
Nice.
Maybe.
Do Do you have escape plans, like, if you go out with friends and family too?
Um,
Think ahead of time, or do
I
you just kind of
kind of
fly
live
by?
on the edge. I live
Yeah,
on the edge for that. I won't go if I know for sure. Like, if I know for sure things are shifting around, my eyes aren't focusing, um, sound is really weird. If I have all those things going on, I know it's pretty likely it's not gonna end well, so I just won't
right.
go at all.
Yeah.
But if I have, like, kinda mild symptoms, and it might happen, but most likely not, like, I went ziplining, um, a couple summers ago when I probably shouldn't have. I signed that waiver. I did tell the zipline people who were so much younger than me. They were like the zipline instructors were like in high school. Um,
Right.
but I did let them know, like, hey, I am dealing with this issue. And they were a little worried about it because once you start zipping, there's no way back up. So but I was like, "It'll be fine." Like, I was totally convincing, like, "It'll be fine. I'll just sit down for a moment, and I'll let it pass, and I'll keep zipping, or I'll zip through it." I told them that. So, and they let me go still.
And you made it?
I mean,
Well, no problem.
yeah, so
That's
I
good.
guess I'm like, if there's something I really wanna do, I live on the edge,
Yeah,
and I
you
just
just
hope that
do
it
it.
will work out. If I have to lay down on the floor in public, which I've done that, like, walking to my acupuncture appointments,
Mhm.
I've had to lay down on the sidewalk in broad sunlight in the heat of summer, and you
Mhm.
just do it, and you
You
learn not
do.
to be embarrassed, and
Yeah. Yep, after the first time, it's nothing.
no, this is normal. I just like to lay on the ground.
I know.
Like it here.
A
It's
lot of
probably
places.
really soft.
What is one thing that, people usually get wrong about you?
Oh gosh. Hmm. I think it's like because I usually am a pretty bubbly people pleaser, like the moment that I get kind of serious, I'm not even being mean. I'm just like serious work mode, and it's like you're in a bad mood. And
Yeah.
then I'm like, am I? Now I am. No. I don't know. I think I don't really ever think about that. Um,
Mhm.
so I actually don't know the answer to that question. I've kind of always lived my life knowing that I'm significantly weird, and they might think whatever they want about me, but I know that even though, yes, I'm weird and I'm into plants and water and mermaiding at my age, and doing all these things, like I am so stable mentally. I'm rocked myself. I'm just not worried about what people
Mhm.
might get wrong about me. I know
Right.
that sounds weird to and contradictory to be a people pleaser, but I just don't. I think I just don't allow myself to think about that too much.
Good. That's awesome. That's awesome. What is your favorite vestibular friendly meal?
Okay, it's definitely this thing. It's called like an egg roll in the bowl, and it's so easy to make. I do a pound of organic turkey, and then like one of those pre-cut cabbage bags that has like cabbage and carrots in it,
Right?
and a little bit of coconut aminos, a little bit of, well, I do a lot of ginger, a lot of garlic, and then like whatever other veggies you want. And
Mhm.
it's pretty much done. Like it's all in one pan. So as you're scooping it out of the pan into the meal prep containers, you can wash the pan and there's no mess. It's just so simple and quick and easy. And it's one of those things that when people come over and I make it, like I literally had people tell me, like you have to write down the recipe before I leave. Like they
Yeah.
want me that bad because it's so easy.
You know, that sounds like it sounds like Crack's Law.
Probably-
Have you ever had it?
I have not.
That I swear I've got a recipe in my book and it sounds exactly like that, but I like egg, what did you call it?
Roll in a bowl.
It sounds a lot better, but
I
it's
mean,
identical.
I'm really interested in the crack slaw now personally, so I can share that with
But
you.
it's addictive, it's so good. Yes,
Yeah.
I will share it
And
with
it's a
you.
good way to get in your veggies. Like
Yes.
you're getting your protein in your veggies. And I love carbs, so I always throw in like some sweet potato in there.
Mm, yeah, just have to watch that sodium.
Yeah. So the
Yeah.
coconut aminos isn't as much, I think, as regular soy sauce. So I
Mhm.
do limit that, and then I don't ever add any other table salt to the cooking because I'm so used to not having it.
Cool. What is the last show that you binged and loved?
Mm. The last one, if I'm being so the last new show that I watched, because I've been binging Keeping Up Appearances again. I grew
What
up
was it?
Keeping Up Appearances. It's actually
Mm,
it's on BritBox. It's a
mm.
show about this woman who her last name is spelled Bucket, Bucket, but she insists that it's Bouquet. And so you just follow this like really silly character, and she gets in these situations where she's trying to keep up, like she's this very cultured high person in society, but she keeps running into these slums and all these, it's actually really funny. But the one that I really loved, and there's no more episodes out. I don't know when they're coming out with them. Is what is it called? I can't think of the name. Fog. The Gilded Age. Yes, the Gilded Age.
Oh, I have not watched that yet. It's on my little to do or whatever you call it. I'll
Yes,
have to give that a shot.
I love it. It's not entirely historically accurate, but it does have some little sprinkles of significant things in American history, and the characters are all the good and the bad. You love them all. So
Oh, awesome. 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 What is your favorite book or novel?
okay, I don't have just one. Am I allowed to have multiple?
Sure.
Okay. So What Dreams May Come was a book that I was really close to my heart, probably most of my life. And then,
That is a deep, deep book.
yeah, it was like my religion when I was
Yeah.
15. I was like, this
Wow.
is what life is. This is what the afterlife is. This is what love should be.
Wow.
So, oh my gosh. And the book is so different than the movie. I mean, there's similar themes, but,
Sure.
and The Education of Little Tree, that one impacted me to the point where it took about 3 weeks for me to kind of process it and get over it. Like I just loved it so much.
Mm.
And then The Wind is My Mother. That's a really good one. But I only read like fiction or
Mhm.
nonfiction, and so I rarely do read fiction. And so I'm always reading these like how-to books or medical books or things. I wouldn't say that they're my favorite,
Yeah.
but they pass the time well, especially Alan Watts. Anything by Alan Watts.
Yeah. I'm the same way, but I do like to throw in the others once in a while.
Have you read any Matt Haig?
Mm-mm.
He's really good. He does a lot of like stuff. I think they're even becoming movies. But he
Oh,
has one called like The Labrador Pact. That was the first one I read from his
aw.
collection, and it's about like a dog living with a family, and all he has a gift for telling real human lives and the tragedies that can happen, but also how beautiful life is through those tragedies.
Mm.
Like other titles, How to Stay Alive, The Midnight Library. That was one I just read on my way out to California, and that one is really cool. It's a girl who she's going to, she attempts to commit suicide. And then while she's kind of in the limbo of passing away, she goes to this library, and she's able to like, all the books in the library symbolize different versions of her life. So she's
Mm.
able to relive regrets and make different choices. And
Wow.
then, yeah, I'll leave the end a mystery, but it's a really great book.
And that's by Matt Hayes?
Matt Haig, Haig.
Oh, hey.
He's like a very good mental health advocate. He's just fun to follow if anybody's into that kind of thing.
Cool. Cool. It sounds so interesting. Well, what's an activity that completely relaxes you?
Um, I was I would say yoga, but honestly, I'm not super flexible, and so sometimes I want to be flexible in those positions, and then I just get anxiety, and I'm like, I can't wait till this is over.
Defeating the purpose there.
My fault, not the yoga's fault. Um, I always say I'm not competitive, and I so am with myself.
Right.
Birding, hands down, has got to be the most relaxing thing. Um, I kind of struggle with doing like group trips sometimes,
Mhm.
because I'm the person who literally wants to like go find a spot and just sit in it for a couple hours and just see what flies by. Like lay in my hammock and have a book, see what flies by. And that's bugs too. Like it doesn't have to be just birds. I mean, there's times I've heard leaves rustling, and I look down over my hammock and it was a snake scuttling by, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, nature's so beautiful. You're so beautiful. I love everything. Like when I'm out in my hammock or I'm just sitting in nature, it is just divine. Like I don't think about time passing at all.
Mm-hmm.
It's in my own world, and I love everything that will allow me to see it.
Mm-hmm. I get that. I get that. I wish more people experience that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you heard the episode when I went outside of work after working a heavy shift and being really stressed before I made my commute home, and I went and sat under the trees. And as people were leaving to go home, they're like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm just chilling, just gonna have my lunch and my LaCroix and just relax before I get on the road." And they're like, "Hippie." Like, okay, whatever. Yeah, I'm just gonna enjoy it and ignore you. So
You are in on something that they don't even know about.
that's right. It takes a little bit. I mean, you really have to know how to slow down in order to get there, but it's worth it. It is worth it. What is your most used tool in your vestibular toolbox?
I think it is like mindfulness, because I don't want to discount the support group that I have. They're wonderful, and I'm so grateful to them. But I really don't try to rely on them as much as I can, just because
Hmm.
again, I have that like mindset of like I only want to use resources when I really need them. I don't want to keep using them over and over. So a lot for me is just keeping my mind in check and um, not letting that slip up. And so, there's the mantras. I think everybody
Hmm.
has their own, and a lot of ours are the same.
Hmm.
But just constantly telling yourself, you're safe, been here before, you're going to get out of it. You always
Hmm.
do. And for me, it's like just really looking forward to that better day around the corner, because there always is one. It may not feel like it, and it may be a long ways out, but it's always going to come. Um,
Right.
and so I think just like keeping those mantras in my head is a tool that's really helped me a lot. And because I think this is like such a mental game. It's such a mental game.
Yeah.
And, even with the tinnitus, like I've been able to turn that down. That
Hmm.
was the worst. That was the first symptom. And it was also one of the worst, because at one point it was so heightened. It was like alarms blaring in my ear all the
Hmm.
time. Um,
Didn't I just hear you say something to the point where your tinnitus at this point is almost calming, where it's not obstructive. It's just it's
yeah.
something you expect now. And
Yeah.
cicadas? Is it cicadas?
Yes, yes, yes. So yeah, it at one point it was very threatening and very panic inducing and very distracting. And I read the book Mind Over Menieres, by
Hmm.
Schweitzer, and he talks about how you can like just kind of acclimate to it. And so I really went full force into that. And like, you can't hurt yourself by trying it.
Right.
You just try it and it doesn't work and you move on, or it does work and you didn't waste your time.
Hmm.
But I really focused on like just imagining this dial, this volume dial from like in my head, in my vision, it was like a 1990s boombox dial, like you could see the volume line, and I
Right.
like would focus in on the noise and just tell myself like, you're safe. This is not threatening. It's just
Hmm.
a new thing to live with. And I would just visualize that dial turning down, and it's worked. It took a while, repetitively doing that,
Hmm.
but I don't even notice my tinnitus now unless I'm like in my car and the doors are shut and the music isn't on yet and it's
Yeah.
completely airtight quiet. Then I'll kind of hear it,
Right.
or at night if I don't have like a fan on. But it is like a summer day, cicadas, grasshoppers jumping around. It's noises that I didn't visualize to make them this way, but somehow they ended up that way, of like reminding me of my childhood and walking around in the field in my yard and just all the flying insects. Like it's
Hmm.
just a certain noise that you only hear when you go in like a rural area and there's all these flying insects on a sunny day. That's exactly what it sounds like for me now. And so when I do have those moments where it's quiet and I can hear it, or like if I'm under the water, I can hear it.
Hmm.
It does not bother me at all. I might only
That's
notice
nice.
it for a few seconds and then I'm.
That's great. That's
Yeah.
really good. What are you extremely grateful for today?
Being here, talking to you,
Yeah.
and connecting with the community more.
Yeah.
There's so many things, I think gratitude itself is like one of the most important things that we can do and be aware of all the time. And so I'm always grateful first and foremost that I'm here. I live another day. I experience things, even if they might hurt and they're stressful and they're like the worst thing that could happen to me at the time. It's, it's still like life is music and we're just supposed to dance. And sometimes the songs aren't happy songs, but you dance anyway. And they're still beautiful in their own way. And
Mhm.
so I think, I'm just really grateful for the people around me that I did make it out of this. It's with me forever, but I consider myself out of it in the sense that I don't see it as like a death sentence or
Right.
that I'll be stuck in bed my whole life or
Mhm.
whatever. If I end up getting chronic again and I need mobility aids, I'm
Mhm.
so okay with that. Um,
Right.
and if I lose my hearing completely, there's hearing devices that you can have. Like everything is just there's a solution or a way around everything you could ever be afraid of.
Right.
And so, yeah, I'm just grateful for every day that I get to go out in nature. I'm grateful for every book I get to read, for every show
Mhm.
I get to watch, every time my friends laugh and make me laugh. Like, I'm just so grateful for literally everything in a way that I don't know if I would have been if I didn't have this happen to me.
Yeah. It's so true. It's so true. The change in perspective and how you appreciate things, just it really does change. Well,
Mhm.
it has been such a blessing sharing space with you today. I can't
Thank
wait
you.
to see what you do in the community.
Thank you for
This is
having me. And
awesome.
I am just so excited about what you're doing with this. It's helping a lot of people. It's helped me so much, and I know
Yeah.
it's such important work. And so grateful for you for putting this.
Aw, thank you. Kelly, thank you so much for sharing your story with the Menieres Muse community. I look forward to following your journey as an ambassador, and I hope to collaborate with you in the future. Wishing you all the best. If you would like to connect with Callie or myself, please find the ways to do so below. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share, and stay tuned for upcoming episodes. If you have made it this far, I would like to thank you for being here. It's because of you that I continue to share these stories and connect with so many of you. Our community is growing every day, so be sure to be that person you needed at the beginning of your journey and lean on this community. Now, right around the corner is Life Rebalance Live. It's a live conference that will be held March 4th through the 9th, every day beginning at noon Eastern, with a professional providers panel discussing certain topics, followed by a patient panel sharing their experiences on the same topic. Be sure to register at www.vestibular.org/LRL. If you know someone with an inspiring story, I would love to connect with them. See the ways to connect with me below and reach out. One final question and I'll let you go. Have you discussed your vestibular disorder or symptoms with your employer? I would love for you to leave me a voice message at www.speakpipe.com. Your responses will be shared in future episodes. If you'd like more information on vestibular disorders, visit the VITA website at www.vestibular.org. Remember to love and be gentle with yourself. Lean on this beautiful community, and remember that healing is possible. I'll see you soon, warriors.